Welcome, data enthusiasts. We are Zuma, the recruitment consultancy focused 100% on data tech professionals in the Berlin region. And this is our podcast, Data for Good, connecting you with all things data. Today, we're joined by Olalekan Elesin. Olalekan is Director of Data Platform at HRS Group. And if you didn't know, HRS Group is a global technology business focused on business travel with the mission to reinvent how businesses stay, work, and pay. In context, Olalekan is Berlin-based and his team are spread across Germany and the wider Europe and even India region. Olalekan, welcome. How's it going with you today?
Thanks a lot, Joseph. It's Berlin cold and gray, but we make it happen. We make it work and we make it happen.
We make it happen. That's the attitude. And let's make the podcast happen today. I understand you would like to talk us through data teams and how we deliver value to the customers first and technology second. Mm-hmm. Could you unravel this? What are your intentions when you term it like this?
I think this started a long time ago when I started. This mindset began a long time ago when I started my journey as a technology person. I started as a software engineer, but I always questioned where the value was, right? And a lot of times, as an engineer, I always assumed that the technology was first. So when we say, "Oh, it's a technology business," in my head, I always assumed the technology was first. And I remember, I think it was my first job back in Nigeria as a software engineer. The CTO was a startup, and the CTO said, "Yeah, you all can work on this technology, and you want to manage it all yourself, but you have to think about the value to the customer, and because that's where the money comes from, the value to the customer, and the value the customer exchange brings in money in exchange for value." And ever since then, that stuck with me. And then I got into data. And for for a lot of data people, because I also started as data engineer and then went into data science. For a lot of data folks, we assume that it's about the technology, it's about the data pipelines, it's about all this the models, the statistics, the now generative AI and large language models. But if the customer is not getting value from it, then why are we doing it? And for me, it's really, in this discussion, I hope to really communicate some of my learnings in the past couple of years and over a decade to the listeners to really rethink how we set up data teams with the focus on customer value first, and then technology can come after. Just a short hint is that this talk or this podcast is like a pre-talk for my talk at the lead dev in Berlin.
With the dry run, the
exactly.
rehearsal. And I make all your mistakes on
exactly.
the real thing, not now. Yeah. Get this perfect.
Yeah. But also to add, right? So I had the same talk at the Data Festival in Munich in June or July. And I had someone reach out to me from a really huge company saying, "Could you please come talk to some of my folks about this thinking?" Right? Because it was a lot of people really didn't think about it from this perspective, even though they might know it inherently. But it's really mind-blowing to see how by just a change in mindset, right, can really go a long way with regards to how we structure data teams and how we deliver value to the customer and ultimately to the business. And then technology comes after.
I recall the earlier times of software development being being newly part of business teams, and software developers had to go through a transition of realizing that they're not just building shiny stuff that they like to use and is actually quite difficult to use, but they are building stuff with the customer in mind. And then came the whole evolution of front-end development and much more user-centered design. And although data professionals are trained from the get-go to be more commercially aware, there's still that transition that they're going through in terms of being more commercially aware. And what I mean by that is more customer aware. So interesting perspective you bring.
Yeah, definitely. I think when I have new colleagues joining my team, either as a data scientist, data engineer, or as a lead or technical lead, lead engineer or lead data scientist, this is the first thing I task them with, which is, how well do you understand the HRS business, or even any business at all, right? And for me, they go through at least 1 week of, for me personally, not getting involved in technology at all, but really immersing themselves into understanding the value proposition of our business as HRS to our customers, because that shifts how they think about how to leverage technology to leapfrog the market. But if we go the other way around and say, oh yeah, how can we think about, I remember asking one of my lead data scientists joined recently to say, there is this new technology in town. It's called generative AI, large language models. Come back to me in a week and tell me how this can be beneficial to HRS. And this person came back saying, oh yeah, we can build this, we can do that, we can do that. And I asked the person, so what do you understand by the HRS business and the value proposition of HRS to the customer? And it turns out that there was a whole lot to learn. And then I gave this person another week to go learn about the HRS business, to go learn about the value stream or the team that they're part of, right? The value proposition let's say that's, call it the value proposition of that vertical to the HRS customer. And when they came back with a week after, they came up with more reasonable understanding of how they can leverage this technology to address, to deliver value to the customer or the HRS customer or the customer as a whole, and then bring value to the business. And I think this is all I'm talking about in this podcast, right? Which is, it's not necessarily technology first. And you will see a lot of that in the LLM space. And I'm also active in that space, where people say, oh yeah, we need this information retrieval and RAG, DAG, whatever, this architecture, the transformer and all these things, which I'm also keen about. And you see everybody repeating the same thing, which is chatbot or Q&A, but not really getting to understand how is our business structured and how can we use this technology to leapfrog our value proposition to our customer. And this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Do customers need it? Whether they want it or not, do they need it? Is it going to help them? Is it going to remove those points between maybe a purchase is being made or that customer's retained? Okay, I like your thought process there behind essentially recruitment and onboarding.
Yeah.
With that, I wonder, how do you think data teams holistically should be set up to deliver this customer value rather than delivering value to tech?
Yeah, I think in a nutshell, it's very simple, right? And the question data leaders need to ask ourselves, we data leaders need to ask ourselves is, what is our value proposition to the customer or our customer, or what's our value proposition to our customer? And what's the value chain? What does that value chain look like, right? So in some teams, in some companies, they may set up as domains. In some companies, they may set up as value streams. In some companies, they may set up as however they want to set up. But what is the value chain of value delivery to the customer? And usually in engineering, there's a shift left approach because there's always a right side, right? In mathematics. So there is something equal to something. So maybe on the shift left is where we as a business are. On the right-hand side is the customer. And then we see how does that value chain look like when we're delivering value to the customer. And then data teams should be aligned across the value chain delivery to the customer, not value chain delivery with regards to technology. No, it's the value chain delivery to the customer. And then they can have, as a setup, they can have a central team having platforms or some platform to ease delivery or development of data capabilities. But more importantly, I think this is the whole idea of, at least how I understand it, data mesh, because I've been following it since 2018.
Yeah.
But I'm not so strong on data mesh. I have a different view about it. But my focus is structure the team along the value proposition to the customer.
Okay, super. But it sounds like you were describing data mesh. So in terms of team members being embedded in business or customer value areas. So what are your perspectives on data mesh if you're not fully bought in?
Yeah, I think when I've forgotten her name right now, I'm sorry if I cannot pronounce the name properly, because I started listening to her on the ThoughtWorks podcast as far back as 2018, and I really liked the idea.
Podcast, okay.
And when it was first proposed with regards to domain-driven design and all that, which it was then bringing domain-driven design into how to build data products, which kind of made sense. But I think the engineering community or the data community then caught on to that thought or to that concept from an engineering standpoint, from a technology standpoint. So people were like, oh, we need to start building. We have a data mesh. And for me, it's not like we have a data mesh. We have value proposition to our customers, and this is how we deliver value to our customers. It can be centralized, decentralized, or a combination of both, but it is more importantly about the value delivery to the customer. And then how you structure that is maybe how it's put in the data mesh concept as a social technical concept. But you see a lot of people that talk about data meshes, at least from my view. I'm not saying data mesh is wrong. It's that they focus on the technical concept, which is, oh, we need to have data domains. We need to have this data product manager in there. And we need to put data people around the person. There needs to be data ownership, but not really thinking about the social part, which is the organizational change that needs to happen. And if you think about that organizational change that needs to happen, in my view, right, how many companies, we shouldn't think about Facebook, Google, and all that right now, right? Think about how many companies can actually afford to staff their teams or their value streams or their domains with dedicated data product manager, data engineers, data scientists for each domain. This is a lot of money that they have to invest. And if you ask, a lot of company leaders don't even understand the concept. And we need to think, if we speak from the language of we need to deliver value to the customer, and this is how we need to align. Then you can start iteratively the transformation process of, oh yeah, this value stream or this domain can have a dedicated data team and they've delivered value to the customer. Then we can add another domain or another team or another value proposition until all the domains are then fully staffed or fully equipped, not necessarily staffed, but equipped to run on their own and to then maybe mature into the concept of data mesh.
Would you have those teams cross-functional, considering that if they're delivering to the value of one domain, they might be using their knowledge and expertise in that domain to assist with another domain? Or do you think they should be kept within that one area?
I think they can be both. I mean, this is largely dependent on the business context, right? In a business where you need to have a lot of people working across multiple use cases, it can happen like that. And to the point of cross-functional, definitely when they are embedded in a domain, they then become part of a cross-functional team. So we have software engineers, we have product managers, we have salespeople, we have go-to-market, we have product marketing, we have data folks as part of that specific domain. This is my understanding of cross-functional. And for my teams, usually when someone starts, we have a tenet. Let me see, how many pages is it? I think about, hold on, let me think very well. It's about at least 6 pages that illustrates how we work as a team. So it is very clear from point 1, we are cross-functional. We have a few tenets. I will just touch on a few of them. And now we organize, we focus on business value. We engage in research, but we are not using research is not our core focus. We engage in research to deliver business value. And we are accountable for success, not in terms of model accuracy or the number of data sets, but in terms of the business value that the work that we deliver generates.
Okay. So that's building your models, again, with the customer in mind, rather than building your model with only data architecture or data quality in mind.
Or even data science.
I guess, yeah, data science. All the accuracy in data science would follow if the customer's getting value. Would that be fair to say? Could it be? Yeah, the data would have to be accurate, right?
So let me give you an example. So I was having with one of my teams, I was in a sprint review today. And they were showing me, oh yeah, we improved accuracy we got an accuracy of something percent, 97% on something. And right there in my seat, I'm working from home today. I was literally pissed off, right? Because they completely deviated from the tenets that we agreed to as a team to work with, which is how does that accuracy translate into customer value? If you cannot tell me how that accuracy translates into customer value, then please do not show me that metric.
Yeah, I mean, that makes clear sense, right?
Yeah, but
especially given the maxim of keeping customer in mind.
Yeah, and this is our leading principle. This is the first leading principle that we have at HRS, which is customer view first. And later, I attended the retrospective just because I wanted to also understand why they're having that shift. And the scientist that showed that realized that maybe he or she needs to recalibrate, to really think, because they understood my questions during the review, and then they took it upon themselves to really think through the questions I asked them, just normal coaching session that I have during the retrospective, to really help them to really rethink their approach. Like, yeah, maybe I should really focus on the customer value, how to translate that to customer value. On the other hand, I'm also a very technical guy. I still write code. I'm super excited about when I build something, but there is a balance where, as technical people, we know to understand that customer value first, and then we can show the fancy technology to our colleagues as much as we want. But when it comes to value delivery, it's customer first.
Okay. I wonder then, considering delivery, how do you organize your workflows to make sure that team members are delivering customer value right from ideation to execution? How is it organized so that team members don't veer off track like it seems like they might have done here?
I think personally, this is what I do. So like I said, I have a at least six page document that says
so that clearly details all the workflows.
It goes into details. It goes into details.
Exhaustive. You need to share that.
Yeah. Anyone that wants to see at least a high level view of it, they can attend Lead Dev or tune in. I think it's very extensive. It's at least 6 pages. And this is because I want to remove as much as possible any ambiguity.
Yeah.
This is for me is very important. And to ideation, right? And then to the question you asked, usually it starts from a strategic initiative. And for me, if we are doing anything that is not informed, we are not Google, we are not Facebook, we're not Amazon that can just sit down and write a research paper and then take that into business. We are HRS and our core focus is our customer. For us, that's very, very important. Anything that my team has to engage on is very, very important to start from a strategic initiative. And we have several...
Sorry.
Yeah. We have several strategic initiatives. Now, when we have a strategic initiative, that's the ideation. The ideation starts around that. Who is the sponsor of this strategic initiative? Is it within the domain? Is it cross-domain? Is it cross-team? We identify that and then sit with them to really tease out what hypothesis do they have? What business decisions do they want to make? And what data do they think might? This is the very, very... Might is the action word there, not data will, or what data will help us to understand what data might. And once we start with that, then the team gets into data work, which is a lot of exploration. And for me, I would not allow any of my team members to say, oh, we're doing data exploration for more than a week. That's way too long, right? In one of our tenets, it says, we do data exploration and we ship an analytic output iteratively. An analytic output can be a data visualization in the dashboard or some data visualization tool. It can be tables, it can be whatever it is, but it has to be shareable iteratively, right? And in coming up with that, they have to define clear hypotheses that we want to test. So a clear hypothesis from a business standpoint, how we want to measure, and then what are the next steps. And in communicating those, they can do it via slides. And if it's something more detailed, then you have to write some document that really explains. And if you cannot share with me, almost every data scientist on my team has written that document in at least one of them. And this is not because it's essential that they understand how to tie what they're doing to the business and how to write what they're doing in the context of business. So there's a course from, I think, Oxford university online. It's called business writing. Not every one of them takes it, but then they have to, at least I coach them in business writing so that they can translate, oh, we looked at this and that, and this is the accuracy, and this is what the data is telling us, to a business type of expression. Once that's done, they share with the people, the stakeholders. I don't like to use the word. And then there's an iterative process ongoing. If it needs to go into a machine learning model that goes into production, then it goes into production. If it's just an analytic output that is consumed on a consistent basis to make decisions, then they also do that, right? But that's how it goes. And they have monitoring in place. And then they leverage what the platform or the data platform team has built, so they don't have to reinvent the wheel at every point in time. So yeah.
Okay. You've given some advice for leaders to spread culturally across teams. You've shared parts of your blueprint or the formulas that your teams adopt. I wonder if we consider seniors and intermediates and juniors, data science, data analytics, and data engineering professionals, what can they be doing now to adopt this customer first mindset and to truly understand and align with the customer value?
I think the first, for seniors, I'll start with seniors, is to ask their managers or their leaders, how do we make money as a business? Who is our customer, and how is what I'm doing delivering value to the customer? Because this also helps the leader to think. Because as leaders, we can form all this strategy and really get into operational mode where we say, oh yeah, the team has to keep performing. We need high performance teams, or really shipping stuff. But we're not thinking about who is the customer, what is the value to the customer. And for me, I would say as seniors, as principals, as staff, sit with the manager or the leader and ask, who is our customer, and how is what I'm doing delivering value to the customer? For juniors, right, they can also, or juniors or mids, they can also ask the same question, but then they need to have a different mindset from getting to operational into thinking value to the customer. I think that's the first step to start with. And then for seniors to ask, now we understand, you've helped me to define who the customer is. How can I engage across different domains to make sure that my work or our work as a team is delivering value? What are the key strategic initiatives that are important for our business for the next quarter or 6 months, depending on the planning cadence that they have in the organization? Where can we find that information? And I think a lot of people attend this all hands that engineering companies have or technology companies have, and they don't take away what the key strategic initiatives. In my view, a lot of all hands start with, oh, these are the key metrics for the company. And people are looking and, yeah, let's see. Okay, thank you. 1 hour, 30 minutes, they're gone. But those key metrics that are important for the business are the starting points of key strategic initiatives that a data scientist or a data team can work on. Imagine if you and I'm the CTO, you're the CPO, and we have our all hands. We say, in our podcast, we have 700 listeners. We're showing key metrics that are important, and then a data team comes and says, "Oh, Joseph, sorry, I missed your name there. My team and I looked at the numbers that you shared, and we found a couple of things that might improve." Our head will go nuts, like, show us the numbers, show us what you've done. But if they come and said, now, you know what, we can translate this podcast to English, Yoruba, because I'm from the southwestern part of Nigeria, and they show us, we will be asking the question, so how does that help us to move the business forward? But if they come and say, we have metrics, we have data that shows us how to grow listeners, how to increase sessions, how to increase hours or listening hours, and how this ultimately converts to business for you, that will be a different conversation. Which one would you value more? The ones that come and say, oh, we built this LLM that can translate to different languages, and the one that comes and says, we can really grow this important metric that we value as a business.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So strong advice there and a strong sentiment that's pervaded the whole conversation. I wonder if customer value is central to a data team's structure and their mindset. Do you see data team structures changing anytime soon, given that I don't think customer value is central to every team's prerogative? Do you see data team structures changing anytime soon to meet this?
I think it will. I think the data mesh movement is really helping. I think we just need to find a way to move away from the technical concepts to start thinking about, at least add to that the business value or the customer view first. And to the question, I think the question is very interesting because someone also asked me a similar question, which is what happens to data initiatives like data governance and all this stuff? And I listen to McKinsey a lot, the podcast. I watch Bloomberg a lot. And when I listen to all these things, they usually say customer, they all usually talk about the customer and the investor. And I'm thinking to myself, so what is how does your data governance program as a data team contribute to investor relations? And people will go like, it doesn't have to because of this. You have to align your initiatives with, depending if it's a public company or not, investor relations and customer value. Those things don't go away. Once you align that, then it's a lot easier to have the discussion with higher ups and say, along our value delivery to customer, we are adding data governance policies that help us to ensure data security, that helps us to ensure data privacy of our customers, that helps us to ensure that there is data documentation or data discovery. It should be along the value chain or value delivery to the customer, and it shouldn't be any other way, at least from my viewpoint. Once that's in place, then we can easily align data initiatives with the company initiatives, which then deliver value to the customer. Maybe if then it's a public company, ultimately delivers value to the broader market.
With this in mind, do you think we're missing a lot with data strategy at this stage? You said these things that need to be in place around data quality and data governance, then we can work on data strategy. It strikes me that if that's the case, then we're not at the stage of wholly putting customer first. Given that there's so much emphasis that should be put on data quality and data governance, do you think data strategy needs to evolve a lot to meet the real needs of the business, and that is customer? Or are we already there?
I think for some businesses, we are there. For some businesses, we need to evolve. But in my view, the data strategy is not different from the company strategy. It has to evolve from the company strategy. And a lot of times I think, I don't know how people set up their data strategy, but data strategy is, for us at HRS, is evolved from, or derives from our company strategy, even our product strategy. And it is about value delivery to the customer. And everything that we put in place, data security, we are heavy on that because we're dealing with enterprises, right? Think about Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies. These are people that we deal with. We have data privacy is number one on our list, but it's strongly aligned with how we ship product to or ship value to our customer. And for me, it is as a leader, this is ultimately, if I'm deriving any strategy at all, it has to follow from how we ship value to our customer. Data security and things around data documentation, all those things that people care about, data contracts and all those things that data engineers and data people love, it has to derive from our company strategy.
Got it. And company strategy is determined by senior leadership and even investors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. It seems like we do have a lot to go, a lot to do. But that's great. It's the evolution that every division of a company needs to make.
Mm-hmm.
In closing, what advice would you give? And I know you've given several pieces of advice to individual contributors as well as leaders already. What final piece of advice would you give to ICs and data leaders who we know should embark on this customer value journey?
That's a very great one. Let me think.
It's very difficult because you've already given so much.
I think it's to embrace the customer value first approach and align initiatives or their strategy, which then leads to initiatives along that value proposition, and then reduce ambiguity for your data teams. It's very, very important. And for me, it's one. If someone I remember a colleague of one of the technical product managers on my team, usually used to be on my team. We had a new joiner, and the person shared the document with the new joiner, and she said, "Take this document as the Bible." I'm just saying, like, this is the idea is to take this and understand this document, because this is how we operate as a team, to remove a lot of ambiguity. Even though that was the word she used, but then the idea is that understand this document because this is how performance will be measured from an individual level, from a team level, and to ensure that we are delivering value to the customer. For me, it's very, very remove for data leaders, remove ambiguity for your teams as much as possible so that they understand how their work ties to the broader company strategy and delivers value to the customer.
And that strategy is based on the customer, so they are one and the same thing.
Exactly.
Keep it aligned, remove ambiguity. I like it. Okay, Lekan, really appreciate your time today. Really appreciate your insights. I think it's somewhat challenging for many data teams and leaders, so it's a great piece of insight for them. And for anyone who has questions or comments, as always, post them in the comments, send them direct to myself or to Lekan, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Joseph.